Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to our webinar for the launch of the 2022 Age-Friendly Communities Grant Program. We're so happy to have you here. Thank you for joining. So this is an information session for local and Indigenous government applicants. I'm Sarah Dyer, the Age-Friendly Communities Program Lead with BC Healthy Communities Society, and I'm here today with my colleague, Stacey Chappell, our BCHC's Grants and Engagement Coordinator. So as the program lead, will be the main point of contact for those those grant recipients during their grant activities for their plans and projects. And Stacey is your primary contact for grant administration. She'll talk more about that when she gets to her portion of the presentation. So this morning, we're pleased to share our information and do our best to answer your questions about the 2022 Age-Friendly Communities Grant application process and any questions you may have about your plans and projects. So I'll do a land acknowledgement once more people have joined, but for now, as people are joining, if you could just please use the chat function here in the Zoom to introduce yourself, the organization you're representing today, and include the territory you're joining us from, if you know. One of our practicum students, Amanda, is putting a link into the chat if anyone would like some help with that. She'll also be putting in other relevant links as we go through our presentations. So, and I can see people already putting things in the chat. Thank you very much. And if anyone has any specific questions about the grants and proposals for Stacey and I, you could put those in the Q&A, which is down at your menu towards the right. You can click on that Q&A icon there to open the window, enter any questions about the grants at any time throughout the presentations, and we'll get to those at the end of our presentation in the Q&A period. Also, there's an option there to ask questions anonymously, so that's available to you as well. And it's so great to see where everyone is joining us from today across BC. We're so happy to have you here with us. And with that, we can go on to the next slide, please. Okay, so we would like to acknowledge that BC Healthy Communities offices are located on the surrounding traditional lands of the Esquimalt and Songhees nations, where we work, live, learn, age, and play. And at BCHC, this acknowledgement is a prompt for us to be reflective about the nature of our work and the colonial roots of the fields that we work in, including planning and public health. And next slide, please. So today's agenda will be covering some brief background information about BC Healthy Communities, the Age-Friendly Communities Program, a bit about the age-friendly approach, and the history of how we got to this age-friendly grant program. So, and then Stacey will take it away and do an overview of the Age-Friendly Communities Grant Program with things like covering eligibility, how to apply, how to strengthen your application, and some other items. And then we will get to questions. We anticipate having about 15 minutes for those. And we will be displaying Stacey's contact information a couple of times and at the end to ensure you get a chance to take note of it for any potential questions later. So we anticipate today's presentation will take about 30 minutes. And then following that, we invite you to stay for the Q&A portion if you'd like. And we do recognize that not everyone might be able to stay for that, but you won't miss out on anything as this session is being recorded. And it will be up on our website likely by tomorrow afternoon. And that is the Age-Friendly Communities Grants webpage, which the link to that will be in the chat for you. We'll also send a follow-up email tomorrow afternoon sometime with that link and also any links that have been provided in the chat during this information session. And as I mentioned earlier, in case anyone's joined since then, if you have any questions about your plan and projects or the grant application process, feel free to write those in the Q&A window down below on the sort of right-hand side of your screen, and we will get to those in the Q&A period after we finish our presentations. And with that, we can go to the next slide. Okay, so a bit about BC Healthy Communities. They have been around since 2005, and it's a province-wide not-for-profit that facilitates the ongoing development of healthy, thriving, and resilient communities. And we at BC Healthy Communities believe that it is possible, and not just possible, but necessary, to create communities where it's easy for citizens to be healthy and well. And to facilitate that, we operate at the intersection of planning and public health. Next slide, please. So a little bit about the Age Friendly Communities program. This program is about working alongside Indigenous and local governments in building their capacity to create age-friendly communities. And this program supports local and Indigenous government engagement and partnership across sectors for creating age-friendly communities. And it provides learning opportunities, resources, and practices for collaborative local action. Okay, next slide, please. So the brief history of how we got here to this grant program that we are administering now. Since 2011, BCHC has worked in partnership with the Ministry of Health to support age-friendly community development through delivering 2 programs under the provincial strategy of Age-Friendly BC. From 2011 to 2016, BCHC delivered the Age-Friendly Communities Recognition Award Program, where communities can apply for age-friendly recognition status. Since 2016, the Ministry of Health is administering this program, and we are putting the link to that page in the chat for you in case you'd like to look at that later. So, and then the second program was overlapping that time period for about a year, from 2015 to 2021. BCHC delivered the Age-Friendly Communities Capacity Building Program, where we provided capacity building supports to some of the communities that received age-friendly grants during those years. So now BC Healthy Communities is taking on a larger role and adding administration of the grants to its portfolio, and we're really happy about that. In this program, it's funded by the Ministry of Health and delivered by BCHC in partnership with them. So we've redesigned the program a bit, and it includes capacity building supports for all grant recipients, and also all Indigenous and local governments are able to apply for both grant streams. Stacey will be discussing those items in detail further in her overview of the Age Friendly Communities Grant Program. Okay, next slide, please. So age-friendly communities, what are they? What makes them age-friendly? Age-friendly communities support older adults to age in place and to live active, socially engaged, independent lives. And an age-friendly approach is one that considers the diverse needs of all older adults throughout all phases of community planning and policymaking. And it ultimately benefits community members of all ages throughout the lifespan. To make communities more friendly, local governments can take concrete steps in many sectors through partnerships and multi-sectoral collaboration. And they can develop and revise policies, programs, and services using the World Health Organization's approach across the age-friendly domains, the 8 age-friendly domains, I should say. Next slide, please. And those domains are listed here, and we'd like to note that the language of this BC listing of the domains has been slightly adapted from what you'll usually see on Google. It's been adapted to be more inclusive in some specific areas. So the 8 domains take place in the physical and social environment, and they are outdoor spaces and buildings, transportation, including traffic safety, housing, social well-being and participation, respect, social inclusion and cultural safety, community engagement and employment, communications and information, community support, and health and wellness services. So with that, at this point, I'd like to hand it over to Stacey to speak more about the Age Friendly Communities Grant Program and application process. So take it away, Stacey.
Thanks, Sarah, and thanks everybody for coming. It's great to see such a turnout from such a broad range of locations. So my role at BCHC, as Sarah has mentioned, is I'm the Grants and Engagement Coordinator, and I'm your contact for administrative aspects of the Age Friendly Community Grant Program, including the application process. So we're putting some links to the grant program webpage in the chat, and you can also find these at any time on the BC Healthy Communities website under the Programs tab, and then that will take you through to the program as a whole and also the grants program. The Age-Friendly Communities Grants Program offers two components to recipients. The first is a cash grant, and the second is in-kind customized support for capacity building supports provided by BCHC staff. There's also two streams for the grants. The stream 1 is for age-friendly planning, and stream 2 is for projects that arise out of and respond to the plans that you've developed for an age-friendly community. I'm going to review the eligibility criteria, the application and adjudication process, and some more details about the streams. And then I'll be handing it back to Sarah to talk about community supports and some examples of previously funded initiatives. So this presentation will give you an overview, but I really encourage you to have a look at the application guide. It's available on our website, and I think the link is being posted as well. Because that will be very helpful for you in preparing your application. So I'll go to my next slide, please. So the first question any grant writer wants to know is, who is eligible? For Age-Friendly Communities Grant Program, all Indigenous governments and also local governments are eligible to apply for both the Stream 1 and Stream 2 funding. You can see the list of eligible applicants, so these need to be located in BC. And this is also described in the application guide. For those of you who may not be from one of those eligible groups, the projects and plan often have partners involved as well. Next slide. So this is just a quick summary of the two streams. Stream 1, which is the planning stream, the funding offered is up to $25,000 for the year. And that will support the development of a local age-friendly community plan and an assessment and action plan. And it can also include support for adding an age-friendly and equity lens to existing plans or policies. So that could be your comprehensive community plan, your official community plan. It could be your community's reconciliation plan, framework, or agreement. It could be your health and wellness plan for your community. And there's a variety of other plans, and there's a lot of examples again in the application guide for you to look through. For Stream 2 projects, the funding offered is $15,000, and this stream provides funding to carry out one or some of the actions, projects, and recommendations identified in your action plan during the planning phase. Typically, to be eligible for Stream 2 projects funding, applicants are required to have completed an age-friendly assessment and action plan through Stream 1. However, applicants can apply directly to Stream 2 projects funding if they provide an existing age-friendly assessment and action plan that they've completed outside of the grant program. So there's many possibilities for plans and projects, and Sarah will share some examples with you after this portion of the presentation. There's also a link to a website with examples in the application guide. For both grant streams, the grant comes again with the funding as well as supports for BCHC staff. And Sarah is going to talk about the supports as well. Next slide. So how to apply. You can tell we really want you to look at the application guide. I'm going to keep mentioning it, and as the first bullet, make sure you check the application guide because that gives the full details. And it will really provide information about the eligibility criteria, the program priorities that will be guiding our adjudication. The application has several required components: a proposal overview, a budget, a work plan, and a resolution from your local government or your Indigenous government. So a bit more about those. The overview will be provided through the application web form, and that's, sorry, I forgot to say, the grant submission is made through an online web form. And in that web form, we have questions about proposed activities, goals, and outcomes. And you'll be asked how the plan or project will incorporate equity, your plans for evaluation of success, your proposed outcomes. And we've posted the application questions on our website so you can review them and prepare in advance of applying. And I think we're posting a link to that as well, so you can just grab that PDF. The application will also require submission of a high-level budget. The budget should include the total cost of the initiative, not just the components funded by this grant program. So other revenue sources, including in-kind contributions, should be noted. And for Stream 2 projects grants, it's important to note that only 40% of the budget can be used for capital costs. So that 40% limit applies to purchase of permanent equipment and materials, renovations, building costs. We require a work plan, and like the budget, this is meant to be high level and list the major milestones, as well as who will be taking the lead for each milestone. And there's an Excel template on the website, and that has both a budget and work plan template for you to use during the application process, and you'll be able to upload it or email it during the application. The final requirement is a local government council board resolution or a band council resolution or the equivalent. And that again, you are asked to submit during the application process. All Stream 1 and Stream 2 applications must demonstrate a focus on one or more of the 8 domains of an age-friendly community that Sarah outlined earlier. And those are also listed in the application guide. It is optional, but it is really encouraged to include any supporting documents that you have with your application. For example, if you're working with a partner group and they provide a letter of support, please do include it. We know that internet access can be intermittent sometimes or a barrier most of the time in some communities. So if using the web form to apply won't work for you, please contact me at grants@bchealthycommunities.ca. And don't worry, we'll post that at the end as well. And you can make alternate arrangements. You can also do a mix of filling out the form on the website and emailing the supporting documents after, if that's easier than doing the uploader. Next slide. Just a few application tips. Throughout the application guide, you'll see some information on how to strengthen your submission. And these point to the features that the adjudication committee will be considering in making our decision. So in our process, we're looking for some specific things. We're looking for proposals that use an equity lens. Is your plan or project making an age-friendly community that's accessible to everyone? Will you focus on a group of older adults that has been underrepresented in past or in policy? Tell us how equity is incorporated into your proposal. We're looking for community-driven and flexible proposals. We want to see that you're responding to the needs of community as expressed by those who reside in the community and those affected by the plan or project. We like to see meaningful partnerships. We're looking for collaboration with your health authority, groups within your community across multiple sectors. And there's an opportunity to list partners. And this is because we found that in past, those partnerships can make an initiative more sustainable over time and improve the outcomes. The partnerships don't need to be fully formed at the time of application. So if building those partnerships is part of what you'd like to do over the year, you can list potential partners, or if you've got the starter of some partnerships and some firm partnerships, you can list them all on the application. The last thing we wanted to mention was evaluation and measurement. We're always interested in seeing how you'll be assessing and evaluating the work. And so if you have ideas about evaluating your work, please tell us. Are you going to be collecting data and surveys or consultation meetings? How will you record any data and information, and how that would be used? We're also happy to discuss your proposal with you during the application period. Feel free to request a consultation and we can talk about your proposal and any questions you have. And again, you'll be able to email me to book that at grants@bchealthycommunities.ca, and my phone number and email will be at the end. So during the question period, we'll take notes of the questions raised, and we'll also be noting questions that are sent by email and building an FAQ page for the future. Right now, that page isn't there because we're just starting our launch. So for now, feel free to contact me and with any questions that you have, and I will do my best to get you the information. So I think next slide. So here's some key dates for you. The application deadline, always important, July 5th at midnight, and that's Pacific time. All applicants will receive a notice of the result, and that is expected to come in late August. For applicants that are selected, the start date of the work is September 1st, 2022, and the work is expected to be completed or winding down by September 2023. And we ask for a final report and budget report to be submitted, and the deadline for that will be October 1st, 2023. The funding is issued in two portions. 80% is issued at the start once the financial agreement is completed, and 20% of the award is held back until the completion of the final report and its submission. So that completes my overview and of the grant administration, and I'll pass it back to Sarah to talk a bit more about the examples of past funding and that's been issued and how BCHC can provide supports along with that funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Okay, so as Stacy covered, in addition to providing the cash grant, we also offer our in-kind customized capacity building supports that our team provides. So how that works is we'll schedule onboarding calls with grant recipients, and we'll introduce ourselves to each other and take time to have a conversation that will let us know about how we may best support you in achieving your plan or project goals. So examples of support, let's see. So before I get to that, support can take place through consultation or by phone or video calls, through email, and maybe one day potentially face-to-face. So some examples of what our role might look like in support: it could be helping to design an engagement strategy, or coaching or advising on specific areas, such as how to apply an equity lens, for example, review and feedback on documents produced, such as assessments, action plans, and other documents. We can also provide support with designing and monitoring evaluation strategies. We can help support with the designing of those. The customized supports can also include sharing internal resources that are developed for grant recipients. And essentially, the supports really can look quite different across communities based on communities' own expression of their needs for support. And the application guide actually has quite an further extensive list of the types of supports that we may provide. And there's also an option for writing in too, so it's not bound to those. And then aside from grant recipients, for everyone who may not be a grant recipient, we do also offer resources developed by us, our partners, and others that we've curated, and they're listed on our website. And that link is it will be put in the chat. It is the resources webpage on the Age Friendly site. So in regards to the last point here on this slide, the Age Friendly Communities website does share some stories of past examples of age friendly projects, and we'll put that link in for you for more. But for now, keeping in mind that projects really can be extremely varied in nature, and they definitely depend on the specific needs of individual communities. And those can really vary greatly. So I'll give you a few examples just to get a picture, and then including the website wouldn't have them all, but there would be such an example like providing series of information sessions in topic areas of interest to older adults, such as health or finance and other areas, for example. Could be setting up a volunteer library service for homebound patrons. Not everyone is taking out books through the web. And also setting up potentially a seniors transit travel training with peer volunteer buddies, and it could be setting up a recreation program to increase seniors' health and wellness. But these projects, they're so varied because basically they would be identified through the initial phase of the age-friendly assessment and action plan. They would have been the needs and would be identified that way and pulled from the action plan into projects. So they are very distinct to different communities. But the link to, you can visit the webpage, and that link is in the chat for you, or it will be. Okay, so next slide, please. Here is Stacy's contact information. So we thank you all so much for joining us. This seems to have gone very quickly. And we do really appreciate the time that you've taken to be with us here today. And we do highly encourage you to contact us with any questions about your plans or projects and the application process, and before the July 5th deadline. And you can reach Stacy at her email address here and talk to her through email, or use that to schedule a time for a call with her, or you can simply call her directly at her phone number that's listed here. And so this brings us to the end of our presentation portion of this. So we'll now go on to questions with the next slide. So it looks like we could have about 15 to 20 minutes for questions, and we'll start with those now in the Q&A window.
Could we speak on ineligibility for existing community programs unless you're working to scale or expand proven impacts? So this is because, well, this is basically that we're not looking to do funding for ongoing service delivery in the project pieces. And we're looking to address needs identified in age-friendly community assessments. I think that probably captures it, because that would be related to the project stream only. If you've done yeah, so because it wouldn't apply to the planning one. Did you want to add to that, Sarah?
No, I think that's good. Yeah, thank you.
The next question is, do we have any examples of projects that were done in collaboration between a First Nation and municipal government?
You know, I will, off the top of my head, because I wasn't here for all of it, I've been here for the last few years, we can look and see. I feel like there might be, to be honest, but I'm not completely sure. So what we could do is follow up on that question. Who is that from?
It's just anonymous, but we're sending out a general email to everybody that's registered. So we can look into that and send a follow-up email about that with some examples. There might be some on our website. Yeah, so in the case though that you have a proposed partnership, one of the communities would make the application and the other could be listed as a partner and submit a letter of support, and then you could describe how you'll be working together. So is there, I can scroll down.
What are the chances of a grant this year? That's a Stacy question.
What are the chances? Oh man.
I assume that means of getting one, right?
Being, you know, that's really difficult to predict, but I can tell you the factors that influence it that are kind of out of everyone's control. The first is the number of applications received. The second is, because it's a provincial program, we have a mandate to ensure that the funds reach all the areas of the province, so they won't be clustered in one area. And we also look at the criteria that we mentioned in the presentation and that are outlined in the application guide. So we look across those to see which projects have the best fit. So those are the things, that one where you're responding to the guide, the tips in the guide and the criteria is your best way to make sure that you're funded. There's no guarantee, but it's not, typically our grant programs are not the kind where there's 10,000 applicants and 100 funded. So it's not, yeah, it's a great idea to apply, basically, is what I'm saying. Yeah, okay.
The next one, can this grant be combined with other grants, i.e. New Horizons for Seniors, other Plan H grants, ? Are there any other grants you can recommend looking into when developing an age-friendly action plan?
Okay, so it's absolutely allowed to apply for this grant and other grants, including other grants administered through the BC Healthy Communities program. When you're looking to combine, you might want to be strategic about that. If you're applying for the Plan H grant already, which is due tonight at midnight, so call me after the call. But you know, for sure, because we ask in both programs, we ask that you list all sources of funding or potential sources of funding. But there's no guarantee that if you got a Plan H grant, you would also get the age-friendly or vice versa. So just a smart and strategic thing to do is to look at the full project in components and aim to fund different components with the different funds so that so that we can see that if we weren't able to award both grants to you, that it's still a value to fund one of them. So, but yes, it's not a requirement to not apply. Sorry, it's not an eligibility criteria that you haven't applied for Plan H on the same proposal or a different proposal. And are you able to review an existing document to see if it qualifies as an assessment of an action plan? Yeah, we would be happy to look at that to make sure it meets the criteria. Sarah will probably be my expert on that one, but if you send a question to me on that, we'll probably review it together with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, and generally, well, the application, not that we're completely happy to do that with you, and also it's pretty spelled out in the application guide, I think, as well. But then there may be things that aren't in there, and but yeah, we look forward to talking about that with you. So I lost more coming.
Sorry, I scrolled down. I was marking some as done.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay,
I didn't think
somebody
to do
had
that.
asked about one of those earlier questions also asked about other sources of funding. So we have a newsletter that we send out, and one of the things we include in it is information about opportunities for granting in our areas and in our communities that we work with. So that's my first suggestion is subscribing to our newsletter.
Is that the
And
Plan
we'll
H
include,
newsletter?
yeah,
Right?
that's the Plan H one, and we'll we can include a link to it in our notice at the end of this. And we do post some of those on our website as well, so you can have a look there. And I don't know if many of you are probably aware of the Civic Info website. They have a grants page that's quite excellent. So let me go down.
Well, how do we know if we qualify?
How do you know if you qualify? Well, if you are an Indigenous government or a local government, you're eligible to apply. If you've never made an age-friendly community assessment or plan, then you would be eligible for Stream 1. And if you have, and you're looking to implement one of the recommendations in that assessment, then you would be eligible to apply for Stream 2. In some cases, people have a very old and they've already acted on a plan from quite a long time ago, and we would consider an application from a community in that situation. We do prioritize first-time applicants. So basically the baseline eligibility is that the lead of the application is a local government or an Indigenous government in British Columbia.
Okay, and then from Rose, I'm not sure if I totally understand this. Once a grant is approved, are the grants given every year?
Oh, no, it's a 1-year grant. So it would be to fund activities to support your proposal from September 2022 to be winding down by August 2023. I'm almost getting my years mixed up. Yeah, it's not a repeating grant.
Okay. Thank you. Great questions.
Oh, we have a question about, will you include the introductions of attendees so that we might be able to reach out? That's a good question. I'm not sure that we've...
I think we'd have to get permission from everybody first. So I think it might be, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, you go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, I was just going to say we could do that. It's a great idea, but whoever, we would have to get permission to share people's names and information. So we could potentially say, whoever wants to do that, please email Stacy and let her know.
Yeah,
and
or we could
then
include a
will do that.
poll. We could actually include a poll in our follow-up email. And and then if you would like to, then you can add your name to a poll, and then we could circulate a contact list. I know most people are probably registered with their work, so probably there's a lot of opportunities for making links. So somebody wanted some clarification on the existing program. So if you have an existing community program and you're also adding some new components, would that be permitted to include or not? So yes, you could do that because that would be considered a modification of an existing program to expand it, or perhaps that might be because you're responding to what you found in your assessment. So if you found that a program could be more age friendly, of course, we would really welcome that work. So the thing to do in that case would be to just make sure you articulate, what existed before, what you are proposing to change, and the rationale for the change, and to point to the direction in your plan where relevant as well, to make that line really clear. I know there's a lot of different toolkits. There's a new one. Lots of good questions.
Mhm.
Do you see that one, Sarah?
Yes.
I think
So
this one might be for you. Maybe I'll read it to you for
okay,
a
thanks.
change, because I think this is going to be your wheelhouse. I
Okay.
know there are a lot of different toolkits and checklists out there for age-friendly communities. For example, the Government of Canada's Age-Friendly Community Evaluation Guide, BC's Local Government Guide, and BCHC's Action Guide. Are there any others you can recommend, or a specific one that should be focused on in the application?
Actually, there is one that we developed with the Age Friendly Capacity Building Program in 2021 about uh, how to apply an equity lens in age friendly communities planning. And that is on the resource page of the Age Friendly Communities website right now. The link was put in the chat. I don't know if Amanda, if you're able to put it in again, but um, that will be a really handy one. It talks about how to apply an equity lens in all the phases of age friendly planning. And it's broken down that way. So that would be a handy one. There are some other really good ones. I think really we curated them and put them on our site. And I would definitely say that one would be helpful to you. There's also some, because it's specific to age friendly and it's the equity lens portion. There is a Plan H guide on equity in community planning, but it's not necessarily age friendly focused, but it might help you as well. And I don't have all of them in front of me. There's the webinar that we did in June 2020 that it's also linked on that resource page, has 3 components in it about applying an equity lens, and then evaluation and engagement. So kind of through those things. That's also covered in the equity lens resource that I just talked about, but that webinar might help. It's pretty plain language, it's created to just help people kind of just get started. What do you do? So that talks about the equity lens in those areas as well. And I'm trying to think of others. If I do, we'll put them in the email tomorrow, if that's all right. But yeah, the Public Health Association of Canada is a great one. They that evaluation, we have that linked on our resource page. And they also have a really good resource that's not, and I think it's a implementation guide. That's pretty handy, but that's kind of aside from, I think, what you're asking for.
Okay, I think that's our last open question. So I'll make a note of the ones that we were going to follow up on. We still have them here.
All right, so we are almost we're at 11:41. It seems like we're okay with questions for now. And if you have any further ones come up for you, again, you can email Stacy with those or give her a call, and we'll have a conversation with you or whatever. So now I wanted to just mention a couple of things before we sign off here. And the first one is that when you exit from this webinar, a survey that will pop up for you, and it's very short and it shouldn't take more than a few minutes to complete. We really designed it short so that people would hopefully fill it out, and that will allow us to improve our webinars to better serve you. And the second item is simply a reminder that we will send out the recording in a link probably tomorrow afternoon in a follow-up newsletter along with other links from this session. And if they're including, resources that were mentioned in answer to that question, I think. And then if I come up with any others, they'll be in there. And then that link will be it'll be on our Age Friendly Communities Grants webpage. So we'll just leave Stacy's contact information up here until everyone's left, before we close out the webinar, and in case anyone needs more time to take note of it. So thank you again and for being here, and have a wonderful afternoon.